It's freaking National Championship week. All right. It's the last college football game of the season. Match between Ohio State and Ryan Day and Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman. Some ties there. Marcus Freeman at Ohio State, right? Uh, congratulations to Notre Dame. I mean, kind of defeating the odds, but we talked about, you and I, like, what are some teams that have a favorable bracket? Pretty much anyone on that side with, Georgia, Notre Dame, Penn State, that just seemed like the more favorable side to be on. Um, they played Indiana in the first round, which they did a good job handling them, and Georgia without Carson Beck in a game that they made the big plays happen, and then you drew Penn State from that other side, which you expected, right, for the most part, and then they find a way to win, man, an explosive play, and finding a way to create a turnover at the end of the game. So kind of kind of a great job by them. Ohio State, on the other hand, has not played in any close games really. Close-ish games, but they've handled just about everyone on their side of the bracket, and they have arguably had a much, much tougher road when you're playing Tennessee, Oregon, and then Texas, and you handle all of them. Bodes well for you, right? So this line's at 8. That's what we're going to pick it at. We got a real interesting one on our hands.
Yeah, we've seen some line movement too on that side. I think the early favorite, it was closer to 8.5, 9, even 9.5. I think at one point, maybe when it opened, but it's down to 8 here. So money coming on Notre Dame's side, and a lot of that to me depends on the injury situation, the health situation of a couple key offensive players for Notre Dame. Obviously, a lot has been made of Jeremiah Love and the running back. All-American type talent. He's really freaking good. If you ask me, I love Judkins and I love Trayvon Henderson. He is the best running back in this game. Right? I think I feel pretty good about that. I know you love Love as well. And then also Notre Dame's offensive line, like the shuffling that's going to have to happen there with a couple injuries, right? We saw obviously Knapp get hurt, the left tackle. Freshman All-American kind of guy, very bright future ahead of him. Sucks for Notre Dame and for him that he goes down this late in the season. You insert, a grad, a big dude, Baker, and obviously old, experience, but more so maybe more of a liability. And we saw him get kind of, touched up a little bit against Penn State, and then you bring back Charles Jagasaw, right? And he played he played guard a little bit for the injured Rocco Spindler. Hopefully Spindler could come back healthy, right, and continue to play well. And then Jagasaw can kick out the left tackle, who, by the way, going all the way back to August, if you remember that name, that was the guy that got hurt. That was supposed to be the heir apparent in the coming in after Joe Alt and all those left tackles that have played so well for Notre Dame all these years. And he was supposed to be the guy, former 5-star high recruit. Obviously, the talent is there. Obviously, we saw him play well against Penn State. And he's going to be important because we know how good this edge group is with Jack Sawyer, JTT, and some of the other young cats too. That they bring in that fresh bodies as well. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see. That's what I'll be looking for in pregame warmups, listen to reports. I've been reading practice reports, all these things to see how these injuries are kind of going to be affecting them. And then I'll go to the style too. Like styles make fights, right? And like to me, you've got you kind of similar styles, but like Notre Dame to me is the big one here. If they can play their style, if they want to play their style, how effective is it going to be playing man to man against these really talented Ohio State weapons on that side of the football?
Yeah, it's a good question. And back to the left tackle thing, like Anthony Knapp came in as a true freshman, undersized for standard prototypical left tackles in Division One football, like 290 pounds, and he did pretty dang good. And he played against some good edge rushers, right? Like first rounders like Nick Scorden, right, for Texas A&M. Like he's
Gillette.
definitely showed up in some big spots. I do think getting Jagsaw back at left tackle would be a bump, specifically because of you talked about the edge talent that Ohio State has. Like those guys, Jack Sawyer, JT Tumaloa, they're really good. All right, and they're going to get you for 4 quarters. All right, they're going to be absolute. Jack Sawyer has just been ridiculous this year. Cocaine bear. All right, he has just been everywhere, head on fire, high motor. everything that Ohio State wanted from Jack Sawyer. And we talked about this in the preview for Ohio State. It's like, is he going to take the step, right? And you're a guy that's been high on him for a number of years now, and it's right, never wrong, just early, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah, and Uchechi Tumoa, who's also really good, but maybe not like playing like the top 15 pick that maybe like a lot of folks thought that he was going to be after his freshman season. Having Jack Sawyer there is just awesome, and not to mention the secondary, right, is better than Penn State's. This offense for Ohio State is better than Penn State's in every. But like we've talked about this, Ohio State being the most talented team in the country. We've talked about this. Like it's nauseating, right? How much we've talked about this, but it's true. Okay, I mean, I'm looking at this 8 point spread. I guess 8.5. We could pick it at 8.5. I guess we'll pick it at 8.5. All right, just because we don't want to have a push right on the last game of the season. But yeah, I'll lay it with Ohio State as a pick here in the show. I'll lay it. I'll lay it, man. I'm not afraid of laying 8.5 points on anyone with this Ohio State football team.
No, especially with the way they've been playing right now. Even in a Texas game where Texas was like able to play their style, like that game script, that flow was kind of, I think, exactly what Texas wanted, and they still lost by 14. Now, obviously, I get that. Like, it's more than just numbers and more than the final score. You had the late turnover there when Texas was driving, first and goal in the one, and that's obviously its whole thing there. Obviously, I know Sark and the play call, what yada yada yada. But regardless, it happened though, and you also had the 75-yard touchdown at the end of half there, which was an amazing play design
Right.
by Trayvon Henderson and some blockers downfield. Abuka had a nice block. I'll get back into the injuries too, just to finish those off. So Jeremiah Love, I mentioned, should be a full go, according to Marcus Freeman, which we'll see at this point who's healthy, who's fully healthy. If Ohio State's pretty damn healthy in the way they've been able to load manage this season, and part of the reason why they went into the portal and they've recruited so well is to have depth at spots to play guys, shuffle in and out, keep guys fresh. For Notre Dame, finishing off, Bo Collins, wide receiver, who was the former Clemson transfer. He should be full go after dealing with the calf strain, I believe, in that semifinal game. And then Denzel Burke on the side of Ohio State. He got hurt in that I think that first half or maybe that second half against Texas. And he should be back as well. Although Jermaine Matthews did play very, very good, I thought, in his absence. And, Brooks, a guy I really like. I still like him, but I know he's had some moments this year against some really good receivers like Oregon where he's maybe they've gotten the best of him. I'm with you here. I'll lay the 8.5, whatever you want to call it. I think if you're going to pick this, obviously find a spot at 8. We always talk about shopping lines here. That could be a big one, although it's not a huge number to cross. 8.5. Chances are it won't really matter, but you get some weird scoring in college football, especially with 2-point conversions and whatnot, missed field goals that happen.
The
That you
overtime
could see.
rules.
Oh, the overtime rules, yeah, which could be huge if you're
kind of eight's getting it. Yeah, it's huge if you're looking at overtime rules. So
now if you got overtime here, that'd be wild. I will say, going back to these matchups here, a lot has been made of Notre Dame wanting to play man to man. They run at a very high clip. They've been super successful all season long. Interceptions, pass rating, all these matches you look at. On the other side, like Ohio State, Will Howard and Jeremiah Smith are like top 3 respectively in their categories and their grading out right on against man coverage. They don't see it a ton because, first of all, who in the Big Ten really had the corners to match up with them and scheme wise to match up with them on their schedule? Not really. And also, you'd be kind of stupid too. We saw, what they did to certain teams when that did happen. I've watched this
okay,
Notre Dame
Oregon.
team.
I guess Oregon tried to do that in the first half a little bit.
Yeah,
Got
exactly.
actually burned.
And got burned. Exactly. And, going back, I think when I look at this Notre Dame team and like how are they going to match up if they do want to play man-to-man against this Ohio State team, I go back to the regular season finale against USC in a game where they won, right, 14 points, but they gave up a lot of yards, right? There was 2 pick sixes in the end of that fourth quarter that maybe made that score look a little bit more lopsided than it really was. Christian Gray, who we talked about back in August as being maybe a linchpin, an X factor for this team if he could take a step. He's been pretty good all year, I'll say that. He got torched in that game. 12 targets against him, 8 receptions on those 12 targets, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's not ideal. Although he did bounce back and have that huge pick six, I get that. That was clutch. That was important. And this Notre Dame team, we've seen them, now and again, like have those big plays when they need them at the end of halves,
They
at the
lead
end of
FBS
games.
in turnovers forced.
Exactly. And part of that is fluky, sure, but I think part of that is the aggressive nature of playing man to man too. Like if you're not giving up separation, you got to throw in tight windows. You have these quarterbacks. We're not perfect in college football at all. And Will Howard, we love Will Howard. He's also not perfect. We saw him make mistakes in the Texas game, right? Trying to make a play. We saw Drew Allard do it, all right? And obviously, whatever that was at the end of the half, or at the end of the game was crazy too. Going to the other side, though, of Christian Gray, Leonard Moore, right? The true freshman, 6'2", right? He's a guy that maybe could match up with Jeremiah Smith, 6'3", physical dude, even though he's a freshman, with his size and his length. Could be nice for them. He was very good against USC, right? 10 targets, only 2 receptions in that game. They're going to have a very, very tall task having to deal with Smith, Carnell Tate. Obviously, you got Abuka on the inside, G. Scott, the 2 running backs. It's going to be a handful, and not to mention Chip Kelly and Ryan Day. I'm sure they've saved some stuff for this game, and I'm sure they had to empty a little bit more than they wanted to at times, but I'm sure we're going to see some stuff, some creative stuff from this offense, and try to be able to get that done. But it's going to be really interesting, when Ohio State has the ball, Notre Dame and all that talent on the defensive side, what they can do. Al Golden, that's why Golden and Freeman get paid what they do, because this is a tall task, I think, and they're going to have to be, borderline perfect.
I mean, speaking of Notre Dame secondary, like you have a room that like has been awesome this year, right? But really hurt when Benjamin Morrison went down, right? Christian Gray, right, beat out Jaden Mickey, right, for that number 2 cornerback spot. And Jaden Mickey opted out, I believe, for the rest of the season. And now he is, I don't know what he's doing, but he's not playing, right? So there's just a lot of younger talent in this secondary, younger wide receiver or younger cornerbacks. Granted, there's some young wide receivers for Ohio State, but they happen to be absolute monsters, right? Um, yeah, and I also want to give credit to Riley Leonard for, you know, playing from behind in the fourth quarter, finding a way to get it done, battling injury, by the way. That dude's tough, man. That dude's tough. That is a gritty gamer of a quarterback right there.
He is, and I will say, I picked against Notre Dame against the spread in every single playoff game, right? And I'm gonna do it again here, but like he continues to prove us all wrong. Like we all saw that NIU game, what happened there, how limited that offense was. They have improved a lot. Now, obviously, this Ohio State defense is really freaking good, right? We talked about Notre Dame's defense, but Ohio State defense might even be better, right, at all 3 levels with the way that their guys up front get after the quarterback and their pressure rate, how athletic those linebackers are, and you've got the experience and talent and
Health.
health in that secondary. Exact, great point there. That's why we opened the show with this offensive line and Charles Jagasaw and guys like that. If they are able to be healthy for Notre Dame, that offensive line in a clean pocket, excuse me. No surprise here. Leonard is PFF graded 86, which is borderline elite, right? Really freaking good. No surprise. In a pressured pocket, that drops all the way to 36. And now we talk about him, his sack avoidance has been very, very good throughout his career. And he's made big plays on that. I get that. But that also, like, you see batted balls, you see tip passes, you see interceptions that do happen to drop that grade all the way down. The one thing that is important here to note, and why it's going to be so important for this offensive line to hold up against Ohio State's just 4-man pressure front, is because against the blitz, right, he is really freaking good. His passing grade is 81, which is freaking amazing. The problem is Ohio State, and I think a lot of it has to do with game script and also like being able to get pressure with 4, not needing to blitz, right? They are like, 86th in the country in blitz rate. So that's like not high at all. It's like 33% blitz rate. If they have to blitz to get pressure, that could be a real problem, right? In a spot that Notre Dame could potentially take advantage of them, right? We know how good that secondary is and how linebackers are. But you can scheme things up, and Leonard is very good at diagnosing the blitz, throwing into the blitz, moving protection, getting out of it, like doing very, very good stuff with that. So if you can protect against the 4, right, and where you're not seeing pressure just against a no blitz look, Leonard will have a clean pocket and play well. And if you can force them to blitz, he also historically this season has been very, very good. And that could be a real interesting story. We talked about on the offense side or defense side for Notre Dame. If they can play man coverage and have success there, this game gets really interesting. If their offensive line can hold up in pass pro, right, this could get really, really interesting.
Will Howard also has done a great job getting rid of the football. I believe he's top 5 in the Big Ten in time to throw, and part of that scheme, right? But part of that's him knowing to go with the football.
Yeah, Will Howard has been really, really good most of the year, just about all of the year. Obviously, he's made some mistakes here and there, but you're going to get that. He's not perfect. And obviously, we're putting this Ohio State team talent-wise in a class, like, LSU 2019, Bama 2020, but you had first-round quarterbacks on that team. And while we love Will Howard, right, I don't know if he's like that elite, right? He's enough to win a national title, absolutely. But to be like elite, he makes his mistakes. I want to talk about certain matchups here, or more so breakdown of these teams in terms of what advantages does Notre Dame actually have over Ohio State. Obviously, they're 8.5-point dogs, 8-point dogs, depending where you look, right? So they're going to have to overcome a good amount, over a touchdown to win this football game. Seems like we've been focusing on Notre Dame a lot, and that's partially why. So I want to ask you, in terms of this coordinator matchup, coaching matchup, right? Starting offensive coordinator, or we'll just talk both coordinators in general, right? Who has the edge? I think these are two elite pairs, but I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, this is a good group of coaches going at it. I probably give the coaching advantage to Ryan Day, right? I mean, remember that both these staffs basically, except for Chip Kelly and Mike Denbrock. I mean, they staffs played against each other last year, right? So like they're very familiar with like what's going on, especially scheme wise. Ryan Day and his uh, some of his offensive staff has seen what Al Golding has to offer on the defense side of the football. Now it's gotten progressively better, right? Since then, you have more talent. You got uh, just a play caller that's on defense that's just playing lights out right now. I honestly, I this might be crazy to say. I might like the Al Golden matchup, you know, over Chip Kelly and the offensive staff there. However, you're still getting out talented, right? So even if I believe that, or even if that was true, right,
It might not look it on the field.
it might not look it on the field.
That's what I'm with
But
you here. I think, if not to cut you off, but if the roles were reversed, where Notre Dame had Ohio State's players and Ohio State Notre Dame, like I feel better about Notre Dame staff being able to make up that talent gap.
yeah, that's not crazy at all. So it'll be interesting to see. I think special teams wise, like both these teams have struggled kicking field goals at times this year. I guess that's something to monitor. Not really something I'm willing to dive deep into, but I guess special teams wise, they had good coordinators, right? But just showing up in big moments, which Mitch Jeter has so far this postseason, which is incredible. Um, and yeah, I mean, this is going to be an awesome game. I mean, it's going to be a good game. Now, I will say, for 12-team playoff fans, right, in their heads, they're like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what we wanted. This is exactly what we were saying. 6 and 7 seeds get a chance to prove themselves on the field. It could be for national championship. But then the anti 12-team playoff guys are like, well, yeah, this is exactly what we expected. Like, you're just giving an opportunity for a 2-loss Ohio State team, right, and a team like Notre Dame that loses to NIU, right, a chance to bounce back. And, for good or for bad, it's interesting. It happened in the first year, that had a seed lower than a 4 seed win the national championship, which I guess was already determined after the quarterfinal matchups, right when all those teams with the bye lost. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they tweak this playoff format as well moving forward, and what it's going to yield for us. So I've been happy with the playoff games. Like they've been good games. They've been good games.
You had blowouts. I mean, obviously, a lot was made of the wild card weekend for the NFL and all the blowouts there. I mean, you're going to have blowouts in football, right? Things just happen, bounce a ball, right? It's very hard, over the course of the whole playoffs. You're going to have blowouts. And this one might be too, right? This might be a 10-point game. That's what Vegas thinks it's going to be around. So it wouldn't be surprising. But in terms of storyline, in terms of teams that deserve to be here, in terms of how they're playing of late, right? Absolutely. I mean, I will say, like, if you had a healthy Notre Dame team, right, like, and you
Yeah,
have a guy
yeah,
like Benjamin Morrison who can shut down a side of the field, you've got Riley Mills who can be really disruptive, you've got a healthy offensive line, healthy Jeremiah Love, it would be really, really interesting. And I will say, like, my Notre Dame, back in week one, right, going to College Station, like, we picked against them. Like, I was like, yeah, probably going to be A&M in that game. And obviously A&M, ended up, say what you want about them. I thought they had a pretty solid year, but obviously they weren't an elite team by any stretch of the imagination. But for Notre Dame, like, this is freaking amazing, right? Like, I will say, like, I was wrong, right? And obviously the victory lap everyone had after NIU beat them and writing them off. We even said, we're like, they should not be allowed to compete for a national title, right? I get the fact that the rules dictate that if they win out and things happen, they probably will be in it and they'll have a chance to compete and peak at the right time, which is what they're doing. And credit to them for doing that. But yeah, like you said, a lot will be talked about this offseason about potential playoff change. Obviously, I think that next year kind of runs up and they'll have a chance to revote and figure out what they want to do. If they want to add teams, change the seating format, blah, blah, blah. Um, Regardless, though, it's been very entertaining, been very fun. As long as they keep bowl season, I'll be fine. I'll be
agreed.
I'll be fine. And we've loved bowl season. You guys have loved bowl season. It's been a lot of fun to go through, with this. But yeah, do you see any edge for Notre Dame right in this game? Like, in terms of position matchup, is it run game? Like, can they run the ball? I thought, I will say, like, I love Ohio State's front seven. I love how athletic the linebackers are. I love the edges, and I like the interior guys. I love the experience in the interior. But they did not grade out great against Texas, right? You saw some push Texas had at times. And obviously, Texas O-line, very, very good, right? I get that. But if Jeremiah Love, right, who was a game time decision and made a heck of a play at one point in that game for the touchdown, he gets 10 more days to rest. If he's healthy, like, that could be huge. That's an edge right there, I think, for Notre Dame in terms of, like, being a guy that can take a run, break a tackle, and just go. And you can flip fields. And if you're playing that man-to-man, aggressive defense, you're going to give up points, right? But you might get big-time stops. You might get turnovers. Oh, man. Yeah, we're both on Ohio State here. So, obviously,
Yeah,
not that you're grasping at straws because Notre Dame's very, very talented, but they're going to need some breaks, right? They're going to have to play probably their A- or better game and hope Ohio State doesn't play their A game and just cause havoc like they've done, like, all season. If you're playing this game straight up, right, it can be tough. I think you can compete with them for 4 quarters, absolutely. But to win outright, it would be tough.